Tell me that's not the best day of your life when you're getting ready to get this great freaking deal on the house and the homeowner said, Joe, can you write the letter? Can you write the letter for me? Or can you post a note on my door? Or can you call this guy and tell him I'm working with you? Hey guys, how are you today? Joe Perez from Flipping Unleashed, and in this video we're going to talk about how to be able to go in and buy a home and get it for a price less than what your competitors have offered. So like the video, watch it, subscribe, and if you have any questions, concerns, whatever, shoot me a comment because this is way too important for you guys to miss, okay? Some valuable stuff, so enjoy the video. Just like any delicious entree, I haven't had lunch yet, so hopefully you don't mind the food analogy. A delicious entree is made up of different ingredients, right? And one ingredient is you gotta find a distressed situation. But then the other ingredient is you gotta close it, right? Because the odds are any area you're working in, you're probably not the only prospect out there, right? You're not the only one scanning and surveying and marketing and whatever method that they use, direct mail or telemarketing, social media, whatever. And so there's probably a really good chance that the seller has talked to other people besides yourself. So what do? You want to close a deal, okay? But you don't want to be the highest bidder. On the contrary, it is not my belief that you will eat very well in life if you're always the highest bidder. And as a matter of fact, I think that's the easiest way. Matter of fact, I think it's the laziest way. I think the highest bidder, anybody can just blurt out the highest numbers. You know what takes work? It takes work to buy homes and buy them at a significant discount and be one of the lowest bidders. This home right here is proof, and I have plenty of other ones where I wasn't the highest bidder. And there's no magic to it. It's a formula like anything else in life. You follow the formula and it works. It doesn't work every time, but it works a lot of times. And in this line of work, you don't need to hit a lot of home runs to have a good lifestyle, okay? So you apply the right techniques the majority of the times, and you'll get the best results, okay? So rule number one, you gotta ask a lot of questions. Make it a point to ask that seller a lot of questions. You need to understand what makes that seller tick. And don't assume they're all the same. And don't assume that it's all about money, because it's not. And I'm living proof of that. Have you ever been in a situation where you've purchased a product or a service and you didn't bother shopping around, or you knew the product or service you were buying wasn't the cheapest, but yet you were comfortable with your decision? You still went through with it, right? Because the product was well known, or it was trustworthy, it was convenient, it was expedient, it was there, whatever the reason. We do it all the time, don't we, right? Well, it's no different in houses. Why do people think, I gotta offer the highest price? No, people will do the same thing. If you can solve the underlying problem, like when I get my car fixed, my underlying problem is usually expediency. Are you gonna fix it right away, and you're gonna guarantee me to get it fixed? And if you solve that, then the cost many times is secondary. Well, that's how they are, and they have issues. Maybe you have a situation where a parent died and the kids are in probate, and their biggest concern is getting a lot of probate issues handled. That's their biggest issue. Maybe you're dealing with a hoarder. You'll find that a hoarder has a deep psychological tie to all their possessions. And you'll find that they're very concerned where they, and most particularly, their possessions are going to end up. You'll find that maybe other people have location issues. They need to be close to a sibling. They need to move as quickly as possible. Someone is gravely ill or whatever. A divorce. You'll find that a lady that maybe the husband wasn't very faithful, and you'll find she has different concerns, So the point is you're not going to apply a one-stop solution for everybody. You've got to ask a lot of questions. Now, what does that do? One, it informs you of their situation. Two, it makes them feel like you actually freaking care. The more somebody asks me about my situation, the more I say, wow. Joe came over and he asked me a lot. He wasn't this other guy like, I can buy your home in 24 hours, any place, any condition, any time, cash in X amount of time. I mean, everybody and their mom offers that, How about the guy who just came over and talked to you? Just talk to you like a person, right? Well, what those things do is they start to build rapport. And that's the key to a relationship, is rapport. right? People will put up and endure extra things with you if you have good rapport with them. And that's what I do. I build rapport. I spend hours and hours and hours on the phone with people and hours and hours and hours visiting them. And I don't mind. I like that. And you know, sometimes I might talk about everything but buying their home. Because as long as I keep talking about buying their home, I'm Joe the home buyer. That's not how I always want to be. The day that I sign on the dotted line and get a great deal is because I'm not Joe the home buyer anymore. I'm just Joe. And I bought the home for the terms they wanted. I was able to transition myself from Joe the investor, Joe the home buyer, right? It's like when you go to a used car lot. Don't you fear the used car salesman? I mean, is there any more stigma than a used car salesman? But the day you don't see the guy as a used car salesman, but you see him as David, well, you're probably more prone to buy from David that day, right? Well, that's what I do with people. So you have to build rapport. You gotta ask a lot of questions. You have to know what they need. You'd be surprised. People have underlying issues, and if you can solve that issue, and it's not always money. Sometimes they tend to be other things, okay? But you're never gonna find out if you don't ask a lot of questions and get to know them. Talk to them a lot. Talk to them about yourself and you, but not like, I can close in 24 hours. Tell them stories. We all like to hear stories, right? We all have a story to tell. They have a story to tell. You need to hear their story, and you need to show your story. And these are trust building, rapport building events, right? And do things. Heck, if you have to, take them out to eat. I take a ton of people out to eat. Take a ton of people out to eat, go for coffee, go for snacks, whatever. All these are events that will build rapport with them, okay? And like, for example, me, if I call somebody and we don't talk for at least 20 minutes, it bugs me because I feel like, man, I didn't keep them on the phone long enough. I didn't spend enough time with them to keep building rapport. And it has to be a concentrated effort. Because if you're buying a distressed property, there's probably like a foreclosure, or there's probably something you're trying to beat. Either you're trying to beat some deadline, some sale deadline of a foreclosure, the marshals are gonna come, evict you or whatever, or you're just trying to beat a deadline of a competitor. You wanna seal the deal before a competitor gets in. So spend a lot of time chit-chatting with them. And the way you'll know that you've done your job right, and typically how it works for me is, when I have built rapport, they don't work with anybody else. They just work with me. They drop everybody. They will literally drop. They've actually asked me on occasions, because they get bugged by the competitor so much, they ask me, can you call them for me and tell them I'm working with you? Can you write the letter for me? Tell me that's not the best day of your life when you're getting ready to get this great freaking deal on the house, and the homeowner said, Joe, can you write the letter? Can you write the letter for me? Or can you post a note on my door? Or can you call this guy and tell him I'm working with you? Okay? So that's one of the keys. Let's summarize real quick. People, not all of them, but many people are not just price oriented. And there are some that are just price oriented. And if you recognize that guy who's just a price shopper, make him one offer and that's it. Because one thing you don't want to do is, don't overcommit yourself. Don't buy a home at a bad price. It's not like a bad haircut that grows out in a couple weeks. You're gonna be stuck with that home for a while. So don't do that, right? You're gonna find that there's a lot of people who are not price oriented, okay? They're problem oriented. And you need to understand who they are. You need to find out what their concerns are, their fears, their frustrations, what motivates them. You're not gonna always get that in the first conversation. But once you get it, that's gonna give you all the tools you need to formulate an offer to them that makes all the sense in the world to them. And then when that day comes, you're gonna be a very happy and successful buyer. So we'll close today out with the idea that you gotta give people what they really want and not what you think they really want. And think about it like this. If you meet somebody at a club or at work, whatever, that small talk that you create with them, you know, that's what you do with the homeowner in the beginning. Just that small talk. I would argue that sometimes it's better to talk about anything but the house. Because as long as you keep talking about the house in the beginning, you're gonna remind them of everybody else who came to their door. Everybody else who's called them, mailed them a letter, whatever, right? Talk about other things. You talk about other things, and start learning the underlying problem, and you'll do really well. And we're gonna have a lot more video content on this because I love the idea. I love closing. If you're a good closer and you can find good deals, you are gonna do really, really well in life. And the beautiful thing is that you only gotta learn a certain amount of techniques. It's not like you're selling a gazillion products. You're not. One product you're selling, and that's yourself. You're selling one product in the same circumstances. And what is that? Get a homeowner to sell you their home. That's it. So in other words, there's only a certain amount of scenarios you're gonna deal with when it comes to the closing part, and you're gonna memorize them, you're gonna learn them, and you're gonna use them, and you're gonna be very successful, okay? So stay tuned, subscribe to my channel, and I promise you, you're gonna love, that sounded kind of weird, but okay. You're gonna love what we're doing, and stay tuned.